That's a tough one.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it bothers me if somebody doesn't get it, as long as not getting it is respectful. You don't necessarily have to look at it and get what I was trying to say or get what I was trying to do. I don't have a tolerance for the disrespect.
Some artists paint what they see. Others paint what they think. Please join me in welcoming my guest, Dennis Wells.
Working again.
So my cameraman didn't start the recording for it.
So do we need one of the little slackers? We can take 3.
Right. And he was talking about getting one of those and we didn't do it. Yeah.
It's all good.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So do we need to go back or?
You pick it up over here fine?
Yeah, no.
True. I'm going to have to do something special for you because I truly apologize.
It's all good.
What are you releasing when you create, when it comes to your creative process?
So when I am creating, it is a means of expression. And I mean that figuratively and literally. So it is figurative expression in the way that all art is expression. But for me, it is also a literal form of expression in that I am trying to get out things that I deal with internally. Thoughts, emotions, concerns, all the things that we all carry around in our head all the time, that, most of the time we keep to ourselves. My creative process is an opportunity to take some of that, not keep it to myself, but to actually get it out and to express it through the art form.
Mm-hmm. It's like releasing energy, and that's your out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to describe it.
Yes, yes. And you talk about chaos. What does that look like for you?
So chaos for me is both literal again and figurative. I'll let you take a little peek this is the office part of my studio. We've got boxes, half finished paintings, frames, books, everything sort of stacked around. And the studio part of my studio, the creative side of it, is much the same way. But then there is also the chaos that is inside of my mind, that is part of my thought process. The little bits and pieces of anything that I've come across that I'm dealing with, that I'm thinking about, that I'm feeling. We all sort of have all of that swirling around in our heads all the time. And so that chaos is what I am confronting, dealing with, and expressing when I create.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Since you actually, I was talking about, you showed your studio off.
Mm-hmm.
What does your studio feel like when you're working?
Home. It it feels right. There's I would say to quote Shakespeare, there's method to my madness. A lot of people would probably walk into it and it might bother them, but to me, I know what all these different little clusters of objects and materials, I know what they are. I know why they're there. I know where they're headed, at least to an extent. So it's a mess, but it's my mess, and it feels right.
Yes. I don't feel like, as far as like the things that you use, like the ink and the charcoal and, the things like that nature that you really need to know as far as someone that appreciates art, what that is, that you can still embrace it and still appreciate it, even though you don't know actually what's what or what have you.
Right. I mean,
Because
I don't know.
that's a different, that's a different spectrum for myself for sure. Because I'm used to music and theater and, but that part of the spectrum, where you're at, your space, I'm not too familiar with, but I appreciate and love it.
Yeah. I don't know if the creative side of my studio, I don't know if it would throw you off or if it would intrigue you or, it might drive you out or it might pull you in. I don't know, but for me, it definitely works. And I do work in a lot of different mediums. So I usually have a lot of different, and I'm usually working on multiple pieces as well at a time. So I have a lot of, I don't know if you'd want to call them stations or if you'd want to call them piles, or I'm sure everybody would look at it and see it a different way, but to me, it all fits and makes sense.
Yes, yes. And you paint things as you think them. Okay. What does that mean to you?
So basically, I am not a photorealist. I do not try to capture things exactly how you might see them looking at them in the real world. But even my highly abstracted pieces are figurative in that there is an actual subject. And to me, if I wanted to capture something exactly the way it looks in daily life, I would use a camera. We all walk around with cameras in our pockets now with phones.
Yes.
So to me, it's the blending of what something actually looks like combined with how I'm thinking and feeling about something that creates the new abstracted shape. And that's what I mean by painting things the way I think them, not the way you see them.
See them. Okay. Do you always have to have a subject to start your process, or do you just kind of randomly how does that work? Is it
I don't have to have a subject in that I don't have to be looking at a photograph of a specific person or something of that nature. But there is always at least a subject in that there is a general thought process or at least a vague idea of where I'm going with something when I start.
Okay.
Now that might change as the piece develops. At times I have referred to my paintings as conversations. And, just like a conversation may change, you might switch topics over the course of a conversation with somebody. A painting or an art piece can develop the same way. So I may start off thinking I'm going one direction and end up somewhere completely different. But there is usually at least a starting point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is so cool. I've never been inside of a head of an artist like you. It's so new how that works.
It might be a scary place to be.
I know, because I would think that it's a lot of chaos going on in your head, but I don't know. Like,
I mean, that's why I describe it as chaos.
now, when you break images down, what are you looking for?
So you're looking for individual shapes. You are looking for tones, values, the different colors that you can pull out, and all of those the different strong and weak lines that make up an image. And all of those things can be pulled out and can be manipulated and changed. I'm one of those people when a kid has a coloring book and, you're supposed to color the grass green and the sky blue. Well, you want the grass to be red and the sky to be purple. There's nothing wrong with that if that's what feels right to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's that same sort of approach. It's what feels right, not what looks right,
Right.
in the real world outside. We're working in a different area,
Sure.
a different plane, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you ever, I think you mentioned this earlier, do you overthink different projects? Do you ever overthink it?
Oh, I'm sure I do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that's a very human thing to do. Um, but typically, what I try to do is I work on a piece and just I wait for that moment where it feels like it's finished, um, and not necessarily complete, but it's finished. And I think those two things are different because when something is finished, I might be able to go back later and continue. I'm finished for the time being. Whereas if you say something is complete, that has a definitive finality to it that I don't think really exists. If that makes sense.
Because you can complete something and be like, oh man, I shoulda, coulda, woulda, or
Right. But if you just say like I'm finished with this, there's a dot dot dot. I'm finished with this for now. I might come back later and rework this. And lots of times I'll have paintings that when I am quote unquote finished, I'll take them off the easel, I'll set them to the side, and while I'm working on other things, I'll occasionally, keep looking over at it, and I'll see something that I'll be like, this needs to go back on the easel. I need to change this.
Mm, that makes sense. Do you have a favorite piece that you like that you've done?
Um, I have a few pieces that I'm proud of, but I don't know that I would say I have a favorite. Just some things that I've done that stand out, I guess, for different reasons. There was a sculptural piece that I did that used to be on top of Napoli Pizza in downtown Winston.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
took it down, and I think it's being stored in the Art for Art's Sake building in Winston right now. But it was a sculpture that I did just to see if I could do it. It was a giant running man in a suit, and he didn't have a head. The tile was flying back over the shoulder. The coat was back behind him, and he was reaching out, and his head I had actually transformed into a balloon, and he was reaching out trying to catch the string of the balloon. I don't know if you ever saw that when it was downtown, but it used to be on the roof of a building.
Oh, that is so cool.
So that one, I had a vague idea for what I wanted to do with it, and I had no idea if I could actually do it or not. So the fact that I was able to take something and work in a medium and create something that I wasn't even sure I could do when I started, I was really proud of how that turned
Proud
out.
of that.
I really am sort of proud of the giant, in their own words, of Maya Angelou that's in the Benton Convention Center. Just to have a piece that I created, um, of Maya Angelou and her ties to Winston, that will always, or at least for the foreseeable future, will live in the Benton Convention Center on a giant scale.
Absolutely.
That was kind of an honor to be able to create that. So there's things like that stand out, but I wouldn't say I have a favorite.
Favorite. Okay. When people don't get it, does that bother you?
Um, that's a tough one. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it bothers me if somebody doesn't get it, as long as not getting it is respectful. Um, if that makes sense, like you don't necessarily have to look at it and get what I was trying to say or get what I was trying to do. We all bring a piece of ourselves into something when we look at it, and we'll get different things from it. That part of it's fine. But if someone is disrespectful about it, the cliche is always, something like, especially when you're a more abstracted artist, oh, my kid could do that. Something like that. Like, I don't have a tolerance for the disrespect. That bothers me. But you don't have to see or get the same thing that I was getting. And I understand that my artwork might not resonate with everybody.
Mhm.
Funny enough, my wife actually prefers a slightly more realistic art. She's big into the Impressionists. But I'm a much more abstracted person. So
Mhm.
my particular artwork probably wouldn't be my wife's first choice. And that's fine. Because she looks at it and she does appreciate it and she understands, that I have my own style where I'm going with things and stuff like that. So you don't have to get it and feel the same way about my work that I do. But as long as you're respectful about it, that's the only thing that would bother me is if people were disrespectful. And that would be for me or for any other artist.
Yes, I was gonna say, I wonder if other artists feel the same way. I'm sure
They would think so. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know.
What a reaction are you actually hoping for when someone is admiring your pieces?
Um, I just hope that they enjoy looking at it, and that they get something from it. As I was saying in the previous question, they may not feel the exact same thing that I felt, but I hope they feel a little something. You know what I'm saying? Like it may touch a different part of their soul, but that it resonates with them in some way.
In some
And
way.
that's all I'm looking for, right?
I understand. What does a bad creative day look like for you?
A bad creative day is frustration. Feeling like it's one step forward and three steps back. Nothing feels quite like I want it to when I'm creating. And it could be as simple as, I put a line somewhere and, it doesn't feel right after I put it in place, or I go with a color and then after I get the color into a painting, it doesn't feel like the right color, or, it's just one of those days where sometimes everything just seems to go wrong.
Mhm.
Go to work on a pen and ink and the paper shifts or the table shifts and I end up making a bad mark that you can't remove.
Yeah.
And then that's
Yeah.
everything back. Right. So, that's a bad creative day when things just don't go right. But our failures can mean as much as our successes. And so sometimes there's one of those days where everything just goes wrong, but it gives me a new place to come at it when I come back to the studio the next day. I know what I did wrong, so I can go about it a different way and try to move forward.
Mm-hmm. What do you like working with more as far as your material, your tools, and things of that nature?
It depends on my mood. And sometimes when I am stalling out creatively, shifting mediums can really help get beyond that. If painting is just not working, maybe I need to take and draw for a few days. If drawing's not working, maybe I need to get out some stuff and work on a sculpture or something like that. But it's all driven by what I'm trying to make and how I'm feeling. So I don't know that I enjoy one medium more than another because they all have their different properties and the different ways that you work with them, and the different things you can and can't do with different mediums. So they all have their purpose and their place. It just depends on what I'm trying to do and how I'm feeling that day.
That's
Just like some days you want to listen to the blues and some days you want to listen to rock.
you was just saying. I was just thinking that. Yeah, It's like jazz or blues or hip hop or whatever,
Yeah, exactly. So some days, Method Man's just not cutting it, and you need Coltrane. It just depends on what's going on, and it. You can just feel it that you need a change of pace.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, do you get inspired by music? In your studio, do you have music on, or does that help you at all? Or you don't do it in silence at all?
No, no, no.
Oh,
I've either got I have a speaker that's connected to Apple Music in my phone, and I'll either have that on, or if it's later at night and my wife has already gone to bed or something like that, and I want to keep the level down, I put in the AirPods, and hope when I'm singing to myself that I'm not too loud.
you're doing.
Right. Well, I don't know if I would call that an art, but I enjoy music. Make a joyful noise.
Absolutely. That's what to say. Now, when you still trying to figure out through your art? Are you still trying to figure out anything out through your art at all?
I mean, I'm always trying to figure things out. I think that's a never-ending process. It's not one thing specific. I'm just trying to figure out life in general. We're all navigating the world, and art is one of the ways that I try to do that. So as long as I'm still upright, I'm always going to be still trying to figure things out, and art's one of the ways I do it.
When did you know that you had this talent? At what stage in your life?
So I have always been a doodler, a painter, like going back to being a little kid. I've always enjoyed drawing. I was happy with playing with Play-Doh, building things with Legos. Creating was just always something that I loved to do. And I just carried that with me as I went along.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That sounds almost like my brother. He's not an artist per se, but I remember when we were kids, he would do the superheroes and stuff. He was pretty good,
Well, it's really, he may not do it for a living, but if he enjoys doing it and that's what he did, he's definitely an artist.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I mentioned to you earlier, previously about your in their own words series. How did that come about? I love it, by the way. The collection is awesome.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Shameless plug, those are available for purchase if I still have them. I do commissions, and I also have prints and t-shirts of those. So anyway, I'll start with the blatant advertisement. That series actually started when I was in Winston-Salem. I worked a lot with Art for Art's Sake, which is a nonprofit arts organization in downtown. And every year they would do an art show in coordination with the Bookmarks Festival for authors and the authors and publishers in Winston. It's usually done through the bookstore, might be called Bookmarks. It's over at the Foothills Tasting Room. But anyway, all of the art for that art show had to be literature themed. And one thing that I noticed a couple of years into that show was there were generally two trends for the pieces. Either the pieces were almost like an illustration for the piece of literature, or they would be an abstract thought that was pulled from the literature, and then the artist explained how it tied back to the literature. And pretty much all of the pieces in the show always fell into one of those two categories, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I wanted to try and come up with something different. And when I was trying to come up with something different, I thought it would be interesting if the literature actually was the art piece. So you know, Edgar Allan Poe has always been a favorite of mine. And I decided I wanted to do a Poe piece. And originally, I wanted to do a collage. And I was going to cut up some pages of Poe's work and use the text for texture and put it together to create an image of Poe using his own words. But the thought of cutting up the book just really started to bother me. My mom used to work in a library. My oldest sister is an English teacher. And I was like, I don't know if I can cut up this book.
Right.
So the more I thought about it, I was like, well, what if I just wrote the words? And playing with that is sort of how the idea came about to create a black and white, almost like a stenciled contrast image, and to fill in the dark parts of that image by handwriting the words in black ink. And the first piece was very well received at the show. And I thought, well, maybe I'll do a couple of more of these. So I did a couple of more authors, and people always seem to really enjoy looking at them and getting up close when they realize that he's writing and reading them. And so I just sort of kept doing it. And at this point, it's got celebrities, musicians, authors, famous speakers, anybody that I have sort of found interesting, provided that I could find enough verified like quotes or lyrics or whatever to create the image. If I find them interesting, they've gone in there.
That was genius. I'm telling you.
Well, I don't know if it was genius, but it's been a lot of fun.
I love it. How can we, the viewers, go to your website and to your platforms and see what you have going on, what they can purchase, what they can look at? Let's get all that out there for them.
Okay. So obviously I have social media. It's Dennis Wells Artwork on Facebook, and then it's Dennis Wells Art on Instagram. And then my website is denniswellsartwork.com. And I am much better about updating my social media than I am about updating my website. The website takes a little more time, a little more work, and I have to discipline myself to sit down and do that periodically. But social media is easy to snap a photo and post. So I do that more frequently. And then all of those provide people with a way to contact me. So if anybody sees anything they're interested in, they can always reach out to me. And there is actually a store on my website where people can order prints and t-shirts and things like that.
Okay, great. Please go over and check out Mr. Dennis Wells and all his great art. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and much success to what you're doing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me on. Anytime I'm in Winston.
Please. Yes, that is just great. Yes.
But yeah, I typically have stuff at 2 galleries there. So I'm down to drop stuff off. Yes. Still work. Okay. So I still work with Red Dog Gallery, which is between Trade and Liberty next to the art park. Yeah. And then I work with Delert Gallery, which is just down the steps beside what used to be 6th and Vine, but I believe 6th and Vine closed. But I still work with both of those galleries, and I try to get to Winston at least 4 or 5 times a year to drop off artwork. So maybe we can meet in person one time when I'm there.
That would be awesome. I would enjoy that. I really would. Now I'm going to end this show with you. If you had a superpower, what would it be and why?
So growing up, my favorite comic books were the X-Men comics, and I was always a Wolverine fan. And I think I would say Wolverine's power to heal. He couldn't really, if he was injured, he healed very quickly, and he didn't have a lot of injuries. And the more gray hair I get, the more I think that would be a very valuable superpower to have.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much. And
you're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Take care.
Appreciate it.